Hello. So today I'm here to introduce a new initiative I'm doing, and I am labeling this Adventures Elsewhere Reviews. And effectively what this is it's a mix of ARC reviews from the indie community and also just random booktube reviews of books I've read. The reasons why I'm doing this, well, there are quite a few. Of course, this is a huge part of supporting the indie community, particularly the indie dark lit community. Having been there, done that, it's really difficult to try and find anybody who will take indie dark lit ARCs to, be the change I want to see, much like with AEP interviews. And, it helps me discover more authors, it helps readers discover more authors. Also, so I can get a bit more used to the camera, the black and white filter is also part of that. And I also thought that might be part of the next phase of me trying to overcome and progress with my speech issues as well, because I've noticed it is a lot worse as soon as I put any kind of camera on. I mean, really, no matter which way you cut this, it is a win for everybody. So that's kind of the idea behind it. It's good for me on multiple fronts, it's good for the community on multiple fronts, it's good for readers on multiple fronts, so it's just a win all round. So what this is going to look like is, firstly, videos with camera. If you watch my Reads of the Year video that I did, it's somewhat of a sort of continuation of that. It's not going to replace that. I still want to do Reads of the Year videos and potentially some other things. What this is going to be essentially is book reviews and spoiler free, because I hate spoilers. A lot of the things I'm going to be talking about instead are things like pacing, characters, sort of feel of the book, quality of prose, cover art, any sort of art-inspiring moments. So you get a fair amount of detail about the book. At the end of any episode, there will just be a rating out of 5 as well, and I will try and keep this to whole numbers for what it's worth, though that's not always going to be possible. There will also be links to purchase any books that I've talked about, as well as a link to my recommended indie bookshelf on Goodreads that I have fairly recently made, depending on when this goes up. That's something that I've been working on. Anything I've read as part of this new initiative will end up there if I enjoy it. So in terms of what books you will be seeing, what you'll see for the most part is indie and self-pub books. That is the majority of what I read. There will probably be some trad thrown in there because there are some great trad pub books out there. You'll be seeing a lot of short books, so that's, up to 350 pages, but probably, 250 and below, because I prefer shorter books. I really like just short fiction in general, so short story collections and anthologies are something you'll probably see from me. In terms of actual just standalone short stories, that's maybe something I'll do as well. I mean, it just really depends what people send me, what I'll read, but more on that later. I read things in just about any format as well, so novels, novellas, novelettes, anthology, short story collections, poetry. I'm not a huge poetry buff, but I'm not opposed to it. Generally, I read adult literature, that's just what I prefer, though I do have a bit of a soft spot for middle grade as well, so there is a chance you'll see some middle grade here. It'll be mostly dark lit, so that's horror, mystery, suspense, thriller, all of that stuff. Probably some lit fic, because I do just love it. Maybe some his fic as well, if I can find some good his fic, or people send me some good his fic. And for what it's worth, dark lit does not include dark fantasy in my book. The vast majority of what you'll be seeing really is short adult dark lit. So if you're a writer or indie press and you want to know what this looks like for you, basically what's going to happen is you would send me a book that are within my guidelines, which I'll be covering later on, and ideally you contact me in advance if this is an ARC of a releasing book. Ideally you contact me about 3 months in advance of release date. This is industry standard, you should be doing this anyway, and the reason I say that is because that is something a lot of people genuinely don't seem to know, is that that's sort of industry standard with stuff like this. So that's just sort of good practice. I'm aware you probably can't get an ARC to me that early. That's fine, that's not a problem. Just contact in advance would be much appreciated. If I decide to read your book, I will read it and I will leave a review on Goodreads and on here. Amazon, I don't know how that works. Ideally, I would do that as well, but because they like to do their little verified purchase thing, I genuinely just don't know. I mean, time will tell, I guess. It's something I would aim to do, I just don't know whether it'll actually work, basically. Because I know Amazon doesn't really seem to like ARC reviews. Also, fair warning, I am a terrible mood reader. I will do my best for release days, but I guarantee nothing. There are books on my shelf that I've been meaning to read for just an inordinately long time and not gotten round to, so a little bit of extra info. I did cover some of this a bit earlier, but a little repetition never hurt anybody. Adventures Elsewhere Reviews is not just for ARCs, it is also just whatever books I'm reading if I enjoy them, which will include some amount of TradPub, because, you know, I'm a huge indie fan, but I do still read TradPub, especially when it comes to litfic. When it comes to bad reviews, obviously negative reviews are valid. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I mean, that's what a review is at the end of the day, is just an opinion. In this case, mine. It's not that deep. I don't want to post negative reviews for the sake of, that's not what I want this space to be. That's not what I want any of my spaces to be. I don't want it to be a place of negativity. I don't want it to be a place of drama. I just want this to be a chill place to relax and talk about great books. That's all I want. The chance that there are going to be actively negative reviews is just very slim. 3-star is about where the line is, because to me a 3-star is a meh. It's fine, it's not spectacular. So now we are going to get onto the sections if you are a writer or if you are an indie press, what you should be doing if you're interested in me reading your book. Firstly, contact from indie presses is more than welcome. I'm not just taking requests from indie writers. If you are a dark lit house, please by all means reach out. Obviously, just like no generative AI slop. You know, if you use that sort of crap in any stage of your process. When it comes to what to actually send me, ebooks are the way to go, just for the sake of, I'm not quite sure how I want to handle paperbacks yet. That's something I'm sort of potentially looking into, but I don't have a means of taking them as per right now. So it would be ebooks. EPUBs are preferred because they, you know, can be important to Apple Books. I am a filthy Mac user, sue me. PDFs are also fine if that's just what you got, but EPUBs are preferred. If you've got audiobooks, I'm an audiobook fan, yeah, I would gladly take an audiobook. And also, for what it's worth, this doesn't have to be a new release either. New releases will be prioritized, and in many ways that is preferred, but if you just want to send me like, hey, I'm looking for more traction on this book, would you mind? Sure, why not? And also, for what it's worth, if you're looking for an AEP interview at the same time, you can just include that in the same message and just say, here's an ARC, so interest check, by the way, would you? Also, for what it's worth, if I've read a book by you before, there's a pretty good chance I want to hear from you in terms of if you've got a new book coming. So if I've rated your book 5 stars before, please, by all means, tell me about your book right now. If I've previously rated something 4 stars, then yes, I absolutely want to hear about your latest work. Please, by all means, send it my way. If I've given you a rating of a 3, I'll be interested to hear from you, so long as your work doesn't sit in the maybe list. If I've previously rated your writing a 2, which is pretty unlikely, because when things are that low, I generally just don't rate them for much of the same reasons I outlined earlier, but if I have given you a 2-star rating, if your next project hits many things that I like, again, more info on that later, I will be curious. If I've rated your book a 1 or DNF'd, then your writing probably just doesn't suit my tastes, and if nothing else, I'm not going to be the best champion for your work, so you're probably just better off sending it elsewhere. So in terms of things that I actively want, think of this as the green list. Indie press and self-pub, anything that's in the adult age category, anything that's up to 270 pages, and for what it's worth, anything as short as 10 pages is included in that. I really like short stories and short fiction. This can cover novels, novellas, novelettes, short story collections, and anthologies. In terms of genre, that is horror, thriller, noir, historical fiction, literary stroke contemporary fiction, though I'm aware that line is blurry, alternative history, mystery, tragedy, and suspense. These are the genres that I really like. Having said that, there are a few subgenres I will not take, and these are techno-thriller, not interested, cozy mystery, not interested, historical fantasy, absolutely not. In terms of story elements and themes and tropes and things that I really like politics in stories. That's something that I really like. I also really like reincarnation. This is not fantasy to me. Alternate worlds I really like. So emotional stories and human stories. Human stories isn't a term I see used very often anymore, but if that sounds like you, then by all means. I also really like stories that focus on grief and spirituality. I like a good corruption arc. I also have a bit of a soft spot for vampires, ghosts, and spirits as well. So if any of that sort of stuff features in your book, that's instant brownie points. That's instantly going to shoot you up the list of, yes please. And I will say it exactly like that. And now we're going to move on to what I consider to be the maybe list. And for what it's worth, maybe doesn't mean no. So if you were sat here, send it in and I might well just take a punt. I'm known to do that. Middle grade. I've got a bit of a soft spot for middle grade. There are some really great middle grade books out there. Books that are within the range of 270 to 350 pages. That's okay. That's about the upper limit of what I can take. The lower you are in this bracket, the more likely I'll be to say yes. Manga and graphic novels. I'm actually a big fan of these. It's just trying to read that on a screen is not the best. If I really like the premise, then I will be interested in that, absolutely. For what it's worth, my absolute favourite is Vagabond on this front, so if you've got something like Vagabond, I will take it. Poetry as well is in the maybe camp, just for the sake of I'm not a poetry buff. I like poetry, I just don't really get it, so I might not be the right person for you if it's very sort of upmarket poetry. In terms of genres that are in the maybe list, this is crime and caper. I've had enough just really annoying experiences that they've sort of been pushed out of greenlist, basically. Romance, comedy, and steampunk also sit here. There are a few subgenres within that I won't take, so dark romance, I don't want. Romantasy, also, that's my number one least favourite subgenre. Magic realism and fabulism, I might take, but I'm pretty hard sell on this. So you're really going to have to do a job of selling this one to me. I'm also a really hard sell on the enemies to lovers trope. I know it's a bit of a favourite, but it's not generally my cup of tea. My cup of tea is rose. It's also empty. And now we have the red list. These are the things I will just auto-reject if you send them to me, so pay attention just to make sure that you don't fall foul of this, basically. Trad Pub. I'm not taking Trad Pub ARCs, I'm just not doing it. You've got enough people to do that for you, you shouldn't really be contacting me, that's not what I'm here to do. Young adult as an age category I will not take. Also anything below middle grade I'm not going to take. Middle grade is the lower limit for me. Anything beyond 350 pages I'm also just not going to take, because that is just over my reading preference, and it's just going to take a while for me to get through at that point as well. For what it's worth when it comes to page count versus word count, because if you're not a formatter, how do you know how long something's going to be in terms of page count, word count? I'm fine if you want to send me something and just say this number of words, because I have a pretty good idea of how long something will end up being. That's fine. your word processor should probably give you a decent enough idea. I mean, it won't be fully accurate, it'll probably be a bit over, is my experience, but you'll get a decent enough idea. In terms of genres I won't take, there are quite a few of these. So sports stories, not interested. Sci-fi, not interested. Fantasy, not interested. Romantasy, as I've mentioned earlier, not interested. Erotica, not interested. Retellings, not interested. Mythology and religious fiction, not interested. Non-fiction and memoir, not interested. In terms of story elements and themes I don't like, there actually aren't that many of these. Time travel, really not interested in this. Magic systems, not interested. Fantasy races, such as elves and orcs, again, not interested. So I'm aware there's a little bit of grey area involved in here, and a little bit of, okay, but I'm in a slightly strange position here, how do you handle that? So I'm just going to try and clear up as much of that as I can. If there's any questions you have on this, drop it in the comments. If you're not sure, just ask. Erotica. Erotica's just a bit much for me. I don't mind spice, I don't mind sex scenes, that's fine. It's just the line where it becomes erotica is just sort of not that interesting to me. Creatures are quite complicated, I'm quite aware I've mentioned some and not others. I'm going to try and be a bit more comprehensive about that now. I'm a big fan of vampires and of ghosts and spirits. I mean, ghosts and spirits, I know that's a blurry line. Horror and folklore creatures, yeah, I'm game for that. Shifters, I can get behind that in the right context. Elves and orcs and things like that, no. That's a hard no from me. If I haven't listed what's in your book, I mean, bit of common sense, to be honest, but otherwise it's probably just in the maybe camp. That's the sort of safe assumption on that one. When it comes to steampunk, I'm not really that clear on the distinction between steampunk and dieselpunk and some other sort of similar subgenres. I will consider all of these so long as you don't stray too close to sci-fi. If it gets to the state of explaining exactly how the technology works, beyond the sort of cursory making it believable, I'm not into that. Also, for what it's worth, I'm aware I'm a multi-genre writer, and just because I've written any kind of story in a particular genre, that doesn't mean I'm interested in reading it. I'm aware that another very obvious grey area is if I've rated your book 5 stars but you write fantasy, what do you do? Because I've said both that if I've rated your book 5 stars I want to hear about it, but if it's fantasy I don't. If I rated your book 5 stars, it probably doesn't really matter what your next project is, I probably just want to hear about it. Especially if it's a continuation of a series, I want to hear about it. I mean, there is a chance at that point that I don't take it and I'm not interested, but if in doubt, send it, and what's the worst thing that can happen? I politely tell you, actually, I just don't think this is the book for me. Sorry. And there's a good chance that I don't take stuff just because I'm aware that as soon as this goes out, as soon as word gets out that I'm taking ARCs, I'm probably going to get inundated. So, last but certainly not least, I'm just going to give you an indication of some of my favourite books that I've read, so you have an idea of the sorts of things that I like and the sorts of things I absolutely want to hear about. I've got 5 of these lined up for you. The first is Dead Branches by Benjamin Langley. This is probably my read of 2024. I wasn't sure in the Reads of 2024 video, but that is always the book I go back to, having read last year. That is a hell of a book. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend you do. Also by Benjamin Langley is She Dead in Your Dreams. I'm a huge, huge fan of that book. That was actually my first read from Benjamin Langley, and it was very, very good. My probable, at this point, read of 2025 is You Will Speak for the Dead by R.A. Busby. That, again, is just a hell of a book that had me in pieces the whole time. It was just really, really good. Another favourite of mine, I read this at the beginning of the year, was Our Own Unique Affliction by Scott J. Moses. Scott, if you're watching this, send me whatever you have. Seriously, I want to read it. Another favourite, and this is a trilogy. This is actually steampunk for what it's worth. This is the sort of steampunk that I like. I actually really, really love this trilogy. This is the Blink and Abernathy trilogy by Joe Cuttier. I apologise if I'm saying your name wrong. I never know how to pronounce that. But yeah, those are some of my favourite books. These are the sorts of things that I'm interested in. So I don't know when the first episode of Adventures Elsewhere Reviews is going to go live. Again, there's no schedule. And in terms of what books I've rated 5 stars before, if that's going to be a helpful guideline to anybody looking to submit, my recommended indie bookshelf will be linked in the description, so check that out, because there you'll see anything I've been able to review. I've had a couple of issues on Goodreads where I've tried to leave ratings and reviews and it's not let me because there's some kind of technical issue on their platform. I don't know what's going on with that, whether that's just a weird glitch or what, but just be aware of that. Anything that's on that shelf is going to be rated at least 4 stars. So that's the sort of guideline for that. So, all being well, I will see you soon for the first episode of Adventures Elsewhere Reviews. Until then, you have a wonderful rest of your day, and maybe consider checking out the podcast, because if you like the sound of all this, then you'll probably like that too.